So that's important to know. The strength is your strength. It's used in close combat mostly. And it basically is added to the power of your weapon. For example, when you look at Vladimir, what is his strength? His strength 6?
Strength 6.
Okay. And then down below, he has 2 weapons. And they each have a power. And then you see a P plus S beside that. So what you're seeing there is the power of the weapon, and then the P plus S is the power of the weapon plus the strength of the character. So they're doing the calculation for you, is basically what it is. And that's what that weapon would hit at as a power. Okay? Straightforward?
Okay. Straightforward.
We'll get to the weapons in a second. Next we have Mat, which is melee attack. This is used when you're making a roll to see if you hit in close combat, and we'll get into how that's used. Rat is the roll the number that's used in your ranged attack rolls. Most rolls are done by rolling 2d6. It's a bad roll. Adding the Mat or the Rat, whether it's in close combat or at ranged, and trying to beat the defense of what you're hitting. And so that's where we get to the defense and armor. So for example, what is your Mat?
Mat of Vladimir is 7.
So your Mat is 7. Let's say you were attacking a Winter Guard. Well, he has a defense of 12. So in order to hit them, you would need to roll 5 or higher. 7 plus 5 would be 12. You only have to meet or beat it. Then when you go to hurt them, they have an armor of 13. Now, what's your weakest weapon?
10. Or it's power 4 plus strength is 10.
So 10. So what you'd then do is you'd roll 2 dice and add it to your power plus strength, and you have to beat their armor. For every point that you beat their armor by, you do a damage. Now, most infantry only has 1 hit point, so you just kill them if you beat their armor. If you only match their armor, nothing happens. So basically, you roll 2 dice, you add your power plus strength, and subtract their armor, and that's how much damage you do. So for Vladimir, with his weakest weapon of power plus strength 10, against my Winter Guard infantry of armor 13, you need to roll 4 or higher to kill one. Pretty straightforward. Whereas my Warjack, and yours too, has an armor of 20.
A little harder.
So Vladimir will have a hard time. There are ways to add dice to your rolls, as we will find out. But we'll get back into that. So you can add dice to your attack and your damage rolls. So that's usually called boosting, although not always. And then, of course, we have command, which if you ever have to make a command check, you have to roll 2 dice and beat, or you either have to roll equal to or under your command. So what is Vladimir's command?
9.
So he'd have to roll 2 dice and get 9 or less.
So pretty solid.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. It's actually unusual for warcasters to have such high command. Usually warcasters have slightly lower command because they're not actually representative of the leader of the entire army. They're more representative of the special forces in the army. So you'll actually get some commanders who can join units who have higher commands than your warcaster. But that doesn't really matter too much. Okay, and then we have the weapons. You'll have 2 kinds of icons beside the weapon. You won't see the other ones, so you can kind of take a look at this, at the Winter Guard. You'll see that there is a gun icon that's green, and a brown icon with a sword on it. That is the melee, and the green is the ranged. Make sense?
Makes sense.
So basically, we'll get into how the weapons work and everything. But typically, in an activation, a unit or an individual can either use all of his melee weapons or all of his ranged weapons. And then there are sometimes ways to get extra attacks. So if you have 2 melee attacks, like Vladimir does, he has 2 different weapons. That means in close combat, without any effort, he can use both of those. He can attack twice.
Okay.
Whereas if somebody had 2 guns, without any effort, at a range, they could fire twice.
Can you split your targets?
Yes, you can split your attacks, as long as they're eligible. But you can never do both melee and ranged attacks in the same activation, unless you have a special rule to do so.
Okay.
Okay, so that's pretty much the bulk. The only other thing is, can I actually have my Warjack? Oh no, I got it right here. The Warjacks have a special set of boxes. Why don't you look at your Warjack right there? And theirs are a little special because they take a lot longer to kill. So they have a grid of damage with the numbers 1 through 6 on the top. So when you damage a Warjack, you roll against his armor as usual, and then you roll a single d6 to see which column you've hit. And then you just draw down that column, and any damage that's excess to that gets transferred to the next column.
Is it from top to bottom?
Top to bottom.
Okay.
So the empty boxes that you see represent armor that you're just knocking through, and then the letters represent its systems. The L and the R are its left and right arms, M is its movement, and C is its cortex. Some other jacks and other factions will have other systems as well, but those will be usually specified within that jack's special rules. So left, right arm, movement, and cortex. The cortex is its brain. If you destroy its cortex, it cannot receive focus anymore. Its movement, if you destroy it, it can't move as fast. I think it's half speed. We'll have to look that up in a second. But it also becomes much easier to hit. Its defense drops whenever its movement goes down. And left and right arms, if you look at the weapons on your jack, underneath the icon that tells it if it's a ranged or melee attack, there will be an L or an R usually, not always, or it could be an H as well for head. But in this case, neither of our jacks have a head attack. And so if you lose your left arm, you lose any weapons with the L underneath it. If you lose your right arm, you lose any weapons with the R underneath it. Oh, sorry, you don't lose them. They hit much weaker. You use one die whenever you're attacking rather than two.
Okay.
So it basically makes them useless unless you're hitting something really weak. There are ways to repair them, but neither of our armies right here have any repair skills. So for now, it's just when you die or when you take damage, you take that permanently. And once all of its boxes are removed, then it is destroyed and becomes wrecked. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, so let's do a basic setup. Normally you roll and see who gets to choose sides, and you decide who deploys first. We choose scenario.
Well, I want this side.
Yeah, you can have that side.
Thank you.
And no matter what the scenario is, if you lose your warcaster, if you have no warcasters left, you lose.
Okay.
It's an automatic loss, so you have to be careful to protect your warcaster, although your warcaster is usually your strongest unit as well. So you have to use them without losing them too easily. So we're going to set up, we're going to actually do a 12-inch deployment. Normally you get 10 inches, but just for the sake of actually getting something done in this game, just set up 12 inches from the end. We're just going to set up simultaneously because it doesn't matter too much. I'm not trying to teach how to do all the scenarios. We're just going to do a basic scenario. First person to kill the other person's caster wins. And remember that the unit has to stay within the command distance of the leader. And in your case, what is the command of your Iron Fang pikeman there?
Command of the pikeman is 9.
So you have to stay within 9 inches of the squad leader. Everybody does. And in my case, my command is 8, so they all have to stay within 8.
Wait, everyone or just the squad?
Yeah, the squad.
Yeah, okay.
Now your warcaster has a commander special ability by default, which means that anything within its command range can use its command for any rolls. In this case, it won't matter because your command is the same as your caster, and your warjack is fearless. All warjacks are automatically fearless.
Okay.
So then we take these focus points. You always start with all of your focus, and we'll get into how that works. So I will go first, just to show you the basic kind of setup of the phases of the game. So the very first phase of the game is called the maintenance phase. And in the maintenance phase, you determine any upkeep spells and anything else that's going on. Nothing really is going to happen in this maintenance phase. If your warjack still had focus on it, you'd remove it. You resolve continuous effects spells and all of that, but that's not really going to matter here. The next phase is the control phase. In the control phase, your warcaster decides how much of its focus it's going to hand out. Now, normally, it can only hand out focus within its own battle group. And normally, there's a maximum of giving 3 focus to any jack. Now, jacks need focus to do anything special. They can't run, they can't charge without focus. Doesn't mean they can't attack, because you don't have to charge in order to attack. Charging just gives you some bonuses and allows you to get there faster. But if you want your jack to run, or be able to charge, or do some things what we call power attacks, where they can actually, the jacks can lift up models and throw them, they can trample through guys if they're small base, they can basically push something, they can try to headbutt something and knock it down onto the ground.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it has all sorts of cool things that it can do. You need focus to do that, unless the jack has special rules that say otherwise, which some do. And so in this case, I know that I'm going to be moving forward and shooting. I don't have the range that I need, so I'm going to be really counting on a scatter to go into your ranks. So I'm going to give him a focus to boost the damage from the roll. That's what my intention is. So I'm going to give him 1. I'm not going to bother giving him any others because he can't buy extra attacks for the ranged weapon because it only has a rate of fire of 1, which we'll get into in a second. So she'll keep the rest for herself. You can't give focus to anybody else except models in your own battle group. If you had 2 warcasters, they couldn't give focus to the jacks from the other battle groups. They can only give focus to the ones within their battle group. There's also things called jack marshals. They're usually solos. and they're able to have jacks of their own too. They're kind of like mini warcasters, but they don't get focus and all of that. You can't give focus to those jacks controlled by the Jack Marshal. So you can only give focus to the jacks within your own battle group. Once the control phase is over, and at the control phase you replenish your focus, but because we're already at our max, we don't do that right now. Once that is over, we have our activation phase. This is where the bulk of everything happens. You choose a unit, you activate it, you complete its activation, and then you move on. Once you've moved on, that previous unit cannot do anything else unless it has special rules that allow it to. So in this case, what I am going to do, let's see, is there any crazy thing? And you have spells for your caster as well, but we'll go over those as we get to your guy. She doesn't really have anything that'll benefit me at this distance. So, and you don't really have any shooting, so I'm not going to use her spell that would help against the shooting. So instead, I'm just going to activate my destroyer first, and he's going to move up at his speed, which is only 4. So he moves up 4 inches. And he can move whatever direction. He doesn't have to go in a straight line for this. And we're purposely not playing with any terrain just to keep the game simpler. He's then going to fire his blaster, which is called his bombard. That's what it's actually called. The bombard is an AoE 3 weapon. When you look at the stats for the weapon, right there, you can see it has a range of 14. So that's a 14-inch range. Has a rate of fire of 1, which means that's the maximum number of times it can fire. Has an AoE of 3 and a power of 14. Now, ranged weapons only have a power. They don't have a power plus strength because you never add the strength to it. And so he's going to fire it. Now, the problem is I know I'm more than 14 inches away, but I'll still choose a target, and you'll see what happens. So I'm going to choose that guy right there.
Okay.
So then I measure. You never pre-measure in this game. And I see that he's way outside the 14. So it's going to be an automatic miss. But with an AoE, it works a little different. What we do is we measure out 14 inches, and we'll just put a die down right there.
Okay.
Now you're going to put the AoE over it. Now let me just hold up the AoE so they can see it. There's an arrow, and then there's 5 numbers. And then you can see the AoE 3, 4, and 5 mark. So you put the arrow directly away from the model shooting, just like that. And then I roll a die to see which way it goes. And I'm hoping for a 1. I get a 2. So that's going to miss anyways, but let's just see what happens next. Then you roll a single d6 to see how